So in this course, we'll be taking a deep dive into the world of Open RAN, exploring its history, its key concept. But first, we go to the technology that might be the key technology that might, or not that might, but it will be the future of Open RAN on 5G mobile networks. Okay, so to give you an overview, this would be our topic. So what is 5G? The 5G performance targets, spectrum services, what is 3GPP, 5G system, key technologies, control plane, user plane, and functional split. So in this module, we'll discuss about 5G. We'll learn about the different use cases, performance targets, different techniques, 3GPP roadmaps, architecture, and protocol stacks. So let's go. So what is 5G? 5G is the fifth generation of wireless technology and is the latest iteration of the mobile network that we use to connect our smartphones and other devices to the internet. So it promises to be faster, more reliable, and more efficient than previous generations of wireless technology. So when we say previous generations, we have, of course, we started with the 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G, and now we have the 5G. And you can see that in the early days, you have 1G and 2G that is more of like voice services. So we were introduced to the technology, or to this technology with the voice services, and then we evolved to having like the value added services like SMS, or yung text. So we have call and text in the early 2000s. And then we eventually evolved to 3G, where we have data services. And then we want more with the data services. We want more throughput, we want more speed. So we evolved into 4G, and now we are here in the 5G. So, overall, there are three use cases for 5G. We have the EMEB, Enhanced Mobile Broadband, the Ultra Reliable Low Latency Communications, or the URLLC, and we have the MMTC, or the Massive Machine Type Communications. We can see here the triangle that actually maps out the services that we can see. We can see here that EMBB is more on the speed. And actually, this is what we are getting at the moment with the 5G and with the non-standalone implementation currently with the mobile operators. So, hindi pa natin masyadong nakikita practically the use cases of the machine type communication and the ultra reliable low latency. But this is the promise of 5G. And we are still early with this, and we are still here in the ano natin pointer dito, EMEB. So we have more gigabytes in a second, so this is more on speed. Pag pumunta tayo with the URLC, we are more on the mission critical application. Ito yung may mga low latency. Speed and latency are two different things. The throughput, it gives us how much data we can get in this span of time. So if you're downloading a file, or a video file, for example, it is how much of the time you will spend on downloading the entire file. Whereas in URLs, is more of the response. So ito yung mga tinatawag nila mission critical. Like for example, a self-driving car. You don't need a high speed for this. You need a low latency, so that yung communication would be faster, and the response time would be slow, or would be faster. And then you have the massive machine type. This is more of a smart city, because dito papasok yung IoT or Internet of Things. You have the machine-to-machine communication. So, yeah. And then in the middle of it all, you have the voice. Okay. So as 5G network continue to be deployed around the world, we can expect to see even more exciting, innovative applications that take advantage of this advanced wireless technology. So this is the promise of 5G. So the International Telecommunication Union, or the ITU, and the Third Generation Partnership Project, or 3GPP, have defined performance targets for 5G networks that are designed to deliver higher data rate, the higher data transfer rates, lower latency, and greater capacity than previous wireless technology. Actually, if you look at a different generation, you have the 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G. We have different performance targets for this one. Starting with the 3G, you're already targeting throughput speed. Dapat ganito kabilis, dapat ganito kalaki ang kayang kuhaning data. Okay? Starting from 3G going to 4G. So pataas ng pataas. So as we advance with different generation, pataas din ng pataas or ang ating targets for speed, for data, and for latency. Okay? So that we don't have before in the early like 1G and 2G, that we only have like voice and SMS. So according to the ITUR reference, 5G networks are expected to deliver peak data transfer rates of 20 gigabits per second. Okay? Which is 20 times faster than 4G. Imagine that. So, that would be peak, ha. So, wag niyo naman isipin na sa totoong buhay we can get this. But um uh you can benchmark a generation based on the peak data rates. So, in reality we can get like 100 Mbps whenever needed per user. So, in addition, 5G networks are expected to have much lower latency. Actually, ito yung pinaka parang uh, pang pang bida ng 5G is the latency. Kasi I think people most of you are playing online games, right? So latency is crucial with that. So I'm not saying that that the network games or mobile gaming would be the future. It will be the future, but it's not actually not the only use case. But I think you can feel it, di ba? So if you have slower latency, uh, patay ka na, hindi mo pa alam, di ba? So, hindi lang sa speed nagkakatalo dyan. It's also on the latency. 5G actually breaks the barrier for this. Like, for example, it targets 1 millisecond latency. So, this is very crucial for critical applications. So, this means that the data can be transmitted between devices with minimal delay. So, yun yung sinasabi ko. Making 5G well-suited for real-time applications like virtual and augmented reality, gaming, and multimedia. And speaking of virtual and augmented reality, this is also one use case for the future. Na, for example, ano ba yung mga augmented reality for people like playing Pokemon Go? That is augmented reality wherein you can see the real world and the virtual world meshed together. So, sabihin nyo, puro laro na lang ginagawa ang use cases. If you go to the medical field, I mean, you can have augmented reality during operations. Like, you can overlay human anatomy from the virtual world into the real world during operations para magkaroon ka ng more visibility. Like if you watch A Good Doctor, maybe yung series na yon, that you can see in that series that the protagonist, pag nag-visualize siya sa isip niya, you can see the anatomy. So in this use case, you can overlay it in the actual world during operation, and it will help doctors visualize things. And it's not only a medical field. In When I say visualization, you can visualize like in civil engineering, you can visualize projects na parang from paper to reality. Actually, you can have augmented reality to visualize it real time. So that's one of few use cases at top of my mind. So the 3GPP has also defined performance targets for 5G network in its technical report. According to this report, 5G networks are expected to support a much larger number of connected devices than previous wireless technologies, with a target of up to 1 million. So you can see here you have capacity. You have here devices per area. So square kilometer, you have like 1 million na yung promise niya. So this enables the creation of smart cities, smart homes, and smart factories among other applications. If you go to the lower generations, bukod sa throughput, latency, can also have limitations on how many UEs you can connect. And in telecommunications, especially in cellular network, we have this phenomenon we call congestion. So if maraming users, it affects the performance. So because to put it to explain it simply, the more user, the more people or the more user shares the bandwidth. So hahatiin yan sa inyong lahat. And so it depends on the quality of service that each subscriber has. Your performance will differ from each other. So either you will have slower speed to compensate for the higher uh, uh, density of users. So in addition, 5G networks are expected to be more energy efficient than previous wireless technologies, with a target of reducing energy consumption by up to 90%. Yes. Because you can have virtualized network now in 5G network, and you will be having less physical equipment on site, so your consumption will greatly reduce. So yung Meralco bill will get lower. And I think going into the future, we are more on green technology. So you want to have uh, cost efficient and energy efficient equipment to run from the company. So, yun yung isa sa mga promise ng 5G. This is achieved through the use of advanced technologies like network slicing, which enables the creation of multiple virtual networks on a single physical network. So, yun nga, sabi ko, you can have more virtual network, but, or on the same time, you have single physical network. So, a single physical network will consume less energy. Okay? So meeting these performance targets is essential for the successful deployment of 5G networks and the realization of the full potential of this advanced wireless technology. So medyo malayo-layo pa tayo with these targets, but this is what we are trying to achieve with 5G. So by delivering higher data transfer rates, lower latency, and greater capacity, 5G networks can enable a wide range of new and innovative applications and services, making our lives even more connected and convenient. Okay. So 5G is a wireless communication technology that operates on a much higher frequency band than previous wireless technologies, with frequencies up to 100 gigahertz. So it is sitting on a new spectrum. Okay, this enables the use of much larger bandwidths, up to 1 gigahertz or more, which can deliver much higher data transfer rates and lower latency than previous wireless technologies. So one of the key technologies used in 5G is millimeter wave communication, which operates at frequencies above 24 gigahertz, or I think this is the sorry, excuse me. This is above the UHF already. So millimeter wave communication enables the use of much larger bandwidths up to 800 megahertz or more, which can support data transfer rates of up to 10 gigabits per second. So that would be the secret of 5G, because it's on the higher spectrum. It has more bandwidth. However, millimeter wave communication has a shorter range than previous wireless technologies and can be effectively uh, or it can be affected by obstacles like buildings and trees. So in communications 101, we can go back on our properties. So if you have lower frequency, you will be having uh, what do you call it? Longer wavelength, right? So, ano ang formula yun? C equals F over V. The wavelength is equal to C over F. So, it's inversely proportional. Muta ko na yun. Masyado ng matagal. But, yeah, so if you have lower frequency, you have longer wavelength. So, you can go back to your AM radio, right? So that it's like a ground propagation, so you can propagate longer, farther. But if you go to the higher frequency, your wavelength becomes shorter, so effectively you're more susceptible to fading, so it will be having shorter range. So like in this, so the promise of higher bandwidth is there, but since you are in a higher spectrum, you will be having shorter range than previous wireless technologies and can be affected by obstacles. So to overcome the limitations of millimeter wave communication, 5G networks use different technologies and techniques like massive MIMO. So you have multiple input, multiple output technology. Later we will discuss evolving into massive MIMO. So uses multiple antennas on both the base station and the mobile devices. So to improve signal quality and increase the capacity of network. So this enables the use of beamforming also, which directs the signal towards the user, improving signal strength and reducing interference. Because in the lower generation, we don't have the beamforming. We have like a single beam, for example, like a 65 beam directed to all UEs, shared by all UEs. But now with this technique, beamforming, you are now directing the signal per UEs. Okay, so hindi na mag-aagawan. Like the network is actually optimizing the service by giving you your own path. Okay? 5G networks also use advanced technologies like network slicing, which enables the creation of multiple virtual networks on a single physical network, allowing different types of traffic to be prioritized and managed separately. So, which we don't have in the lower generations because all the networks are into one pipe. So, kung hindi mo siya mahahati, we have to have like a separate physical network just to get another network. Okay, but here you have virtual network into a physical network. So this can actually improve network efficiency and support a wider range of applications and services from enhanced mobile broadband, which we have today. Kung makikita nyo, those who have 5G network already, 5G phones already, and if you go to your phone and see 5G indication, most probably you're getting the EMEBB already. So you're getting the promise of higher throughput uh, when you camp to a 5G network. So overall, 5G is a significant advancement in wireless technology with the potential to support a wide range of new and innovative applications and services. Its advanced technologies like uh, millimeter wave communication, massive MIMO, and network slicing enable higher data transfer rates, lower latency, and greater capacity, making it an essential technology for the next generation of wireless communication. Okay. Want to point out also here, I think hindi ko pala nakita to, is LTE dual connectivity and LTE coexistence. The thing is, in reality, mobile operators will have the last say on what to implement, and it is based on their capital expenditure. So, uh, with the current scenario, malaki ang naging capex or naging what they call this investment of the MNOs or the mobile network operators in the LTE. If you can remember, just few years ago, nag-uunahan yung mga network to launch the LTE network. Actually, if you go back to 2006 and 2007, nag-uunahan din ng networks to launch the 3G. And actually, 3G promises better data transfer and uh, uh, video calling. 'di ba? If you can remember for those sana may mga nakaabot. Uh, but I think most of you naabutan yon that it promises video calling. But if we go back, hindi siya naging killer app. Unlike the SMS, actually 2G was the most successful that when it launched SMS, it really revolutionizes the way we uh, we interact with each other, 'di ba? Nung walang SMS, when you say magkita tayo ng 9 a.m., dumarating lahat ng 9 a.m. But nung nagkaroon ng SMS, yung 9 a.m. nagiging 12 noon. So, kasi may text na on the way na ako. But kidding aside, that is a killer application actually, the SMS. And then when we evolve into 3G, it promises video calling. Actually, may maraming mga natakot na mga asawa dahil may video calling. Joke lang. Anyway, yung video calling kasi, it promises a better way of communication kasi makikita mo na yung tao and wala pang Zoom. May makakaisip ba sa inyo in 2006 and 2007 that we can do this kind of activity, this knowledge transfer via teleconferencing, via Zoom, via Teams, di ba? Wala. But that time, video calling yung nakikita nilang way on how to revolutionize communication. But hindi siya nag-fly. Walang masyadong nag-subscribe, walang masyadong gumamit. And it also depends on the UE. Hindi lahat ng UE mayroong uh, video calling capability. So then we went on, move on, and now we have the 4G, the LTE, and there were massive investment on LTE, and I'm not sure if nababawi na ba ng mga MNOs yon, but yeah, you can see here that bakit ko nabanggit yon because now when we're transitioning or migrating to 5G, we can't go full blast with 5G because it means later on yung makikita nyo because it's an entirely different thing, and the MNOs are not keen on investing just to ditch LTE for 5G. So what they thought of is to have to piggyback or to maximize or take advantage of the current existing network, which is the LTE, and have dual connectivity or coexistence with the 5G. And this is what we call the non-standalone. So that's what, pag minalinig ko kanina, the 5G full potential would be on the standalone wherein it's only 5G. But currently what we're having now, at least in the Philippines, is the non-standalone wherein you are actually anchoring on the LTE and then augmenting it with the 5G so that we have an added boost on your throughput, but actually getting your promise of 5G on the eMBB side. So kaya nga nabanggit kanina that we are on the eMBB or the enhanced mobile broadband experience yet for at this time because of this. So when we finally have to get the 5G standalone, and then we have to get we will be getting the full potential of 5G. But for now, we have this NSA non-standalone architecture, and we have the LTE dual connectivity, which is we have LTE and 5G. But if you go to the phones for the normal user, you can see 5G indicator, but actually we are NSA. At least for the Philippines, I think there is an operator with already 5G standalone. I will not disclose, but I think for those who knows. But yeah, meron operator na karoon. Okay? So what is a spectrum? So I just put it here to visualize where our we to visualize here, and for those who ECE students, so at least hindi mo masasabi na the Telecom 101 that you have in college is not usable. So if you go here, most of the cellular communication are in the UHF. So UHF is around 300 megahertz to 3 gigahertz, I think. So you are here, the UHF. And spectrum is like a real estate. Okay? So it's scarce. And that's why it is owned by the government or the state. Kaya nga meron tayong mga lisensya you get. So companies do get a license to use this. So it's a fundamental asset that provides wireless connectivity, as what is said here. It is an invisible electromagnetic wave generated by radio transmitting device, and then you have the hertz, of course. So ito yung sinasabi ko, spectrum user fee, operators company that you asks the state or the government is a given period of time or by paying an annual spectrum users fee. So licenses are normally 10 to 20 years. I think here 25 years. I'm not sure. But yeah, mga ganito. So you can go here and you can see what I explained before that on the lower frequency, you have uh, longer wavelength. And as you go up, you have uh, shorter wavelength. So it affects how you propagate. And you can see here that 5G is going up. So since this is a scarce resource, yung traditional spectrum that we have now are being used by a lot of industries and a lot of people, a lot of sectors now. So you have limited uh, real estate here already. So that's why when you go up into the sub 6G or the mic that's above 6 gigahertz, you have a lot of space here and you can have more bandwidth compared to the traditional spectrum. That's why as you go up to the spectrum, you have higher bandwidth, thus you have higher throughput and higher data rates. But of course, the drawback there is you will be having shorter range. So you'll be having more sites now compared to the lower spectrum. So laging may trade-off. And you must note also that this part is the non-ionizing spectrum. And if you go up the visible light, you have the ultraviolet and up the gamma rays. If you watch Endgame, Avengers Endgame, you know, the Infinity Stones are in the gamma ray. So, yun yung mga naka-ionize, kaya yung mga nakamamatay. So, if people are actually judging that cellular communication is actually cancerous or it's public health hazard, I think this would be a simple explanation that we are in the non-ionizing radiation. So, I don't think that would much give us health hazard. So, yeah. So frequency band for 5G and R. So most 5G network now use a combination of FR1 and FR2. So FR1 would be the sub 6G. So you can it's still in going down to the traditional network. So you can see here the 700, the 1800, but most of the MNOs are actually here using the sub 6G or the N77, N78, N79 megahertz. Okay, and it's on the TDD. You can see that the FR2 would be above the 6G, so you now have uh, uh, higher frequencies and higher bandwidth. So 5G can offer higher speed because of the higher frequencies have more bandwidth. So that's what I said. Okay, than the lower ones traditionally used for mobile. Okay. FR1 bands provide better range, of course, because they are on the lower part and in their penetration. FR2 bands provide higher data rates and lower latency. So currently, we're not haven't seen anyone using FR2 yet. So most because when you're using NSA, you are into the FR1 zone. Okay. And then as we go on full 5G on a standalone, MNOs would basically have the FR2. Okay. And then what is 3GPP? This is like a standard body. Okay, so it's in a longhand. It's called Third Generation Partnership Project or 3GPP, which is a collaboration between several telecommunication standards organizations. Okay, so it unites 7 telecommunication organizations. Okay? They call it organizational partners. Provides their members with stable environment to produce reports and specifications. You know, in telecommunication world, you have to have standard. Actually, not in telecommunication only. For all industries, you have a standard body so that you can have interoperability. Because if you have your proprietary here and there, if you choose one vendor, it cannot work in other vendors, right? So although you have proprietary products, it still needs to have standards. Okay, so I think some of you are already in the telecommunication or into telecommunication work, and some of you are exposed to working with different vendors, and you can see that you have like KPIs, counters, you have operations that much uh, parrots or much mirror a different vendor, because that's because you have this standardization. Okay, they can call it different names, but if you go to 3GPP, it would be the same. Okay, so it's because of this. Kasi kung wala to, kagulo, di ba? So the project covers cellular telecommunications technologies, including radio access, core network, and service capabilities. So, okay. These specifications define how the technology should operate, including frequency bands, yun. Okay? Kung saan ka dapat maglagi or where you should go if this technology uses this frequency. Okay? Data transfer rates and other technical details. The 3GPP works closely with other standardization organization like the ITU or the International Telecommunication Union to ensure that the 5G standard is globally recognized and adopted. Okay? It should have collaboration, and at the end, they should freeze it and have everyone on board. Okay? So dapat lahat pumayag. The 3GPP has released several versions of the 5G standard with additional updates and enhancements planned in the future. So if you go here, so with 3GPP, actually they have a roadmap, uh, and you can see here the different releases. Bakit 14 na start? Kasi in the lower G, you already have that releases lower. So actually 5G started with release 14, initial 5G studies, and then they freeze this standard in 2017, and then 3GPP released 15, or what we call the 5G phase 1 in 2019. So it addresses the most immediate needs, EMEB and initial URLC, and then what frequency to use. So yun yung mga unang tanong nun, nung nag-usap-usap, umupo sila, nag-usap-usap, and they agreed on what specifications to follow with the ABB. And that's you're questioning why EMBB, because like what I mentioned before, members of the TGPP are also involved with some mobile operators, and the concern here is that um, uh, the sh- uh, the change in the architecture. So they have to have non-standalone muna for the meantime, and it would address the mobile broadband uh, domain. So they need to have the enhancement on mobile broadband so that they can put people on board uh, to 5G. And what better way to showcase 5G is to throughput, of course, the speed. Yun lagi ang tinitingnan ni. Kahit if you go to the street and you ask people, they attribute generations of mobile technology to speed, to throughput. So, 1 Mbps, 2 Mbps, laging ganun eh, yung mga tao. So, yun agad yung immediate need for this phase 1. And then you have the initial URLC, of course, na pag-usapan na what is the latency, what we need to target. So, of course, we have to have it faster. So, we come up with a 1 millisecond, and then what frequency to use. So, ano yung available. Because they also need to discuss the frequency, because we still have other generation, other radio access technology, and they're still using this spectrum. So, ano pa ba yung bakante? Ano pa ba yung pwedeng gawin? Ano pa ba yung pwedeng i-free up? So, yun yung napag-usapan here. So, and then you go to the release, to the phase two, release 16 in 2020. And now you have to discuss the ITU requirements. You have further discuss URLC. And now you have to inject the machine communication. And then you have the what they call the vehicle to vehicle, vehicle to machines. So, ano yung mga unlicensed, and then satellite, and all those things. Okay, in phase two, release 16. 2020. I think there are some drawback here because of the pandemic and all. And then you have the release 17. When you say freeze, this is how the document on how they freeze the document, and then it becomes the Bible already for everyone. So, when you freeze the doc, kasi if you go to 3GPP, if you Google 3GPP, you will see there a different document versions. So every meeting you have this, you have added version 2, version 3, and then until you have the final draft, and then release it as release 17 or 16 or 15. So in 2022, we have this 17. So 5G improvements, higher frequency, IAB, all these other uh, advanced properties for 5G. And then you have significant step forward for EMBBs, namely cross-fractional and other things that have to be discussed. Or so this is what you call the advanced 5G. And you have to have the release 18. I think it's ongoing. I've read they are already finalizing. I think the target here should be 2023, but I think they have pushed it back not this year. So we'll see. So yeah. So this just shows us how 3GPP is paving the way for a roadmap for 5G. And actually, they are starting for the 6G. So that's what 3GPP is doing. Okay. So overall, the evolution of the 5G standard from release 15 to the latest release 17, 18 has brought significant enhancements and improvements to the technology, including support for new applications and services, improved energy efficiency, and increased reliability and security. As the 5G standard continues to evolve, we can expect to see even more innovative and exciting features that will continue to transform the way we connect to the internet and use our mobile devices. So now let's go to the 5G system. Okay, for the students and for those who are new to the telecommunication scene, uh, uh, this is just an example of a network. Like you have an access point, of course. You have in this case you have the radio access network, and then you have the switching or the core network that switch you to the public internet. Okay, and then you have your equipment. So you have 3 points. You have the equipment, you have the access point, and then you have the switch. So the 5GS or the 5G system is the overall architecture of the 5G, which includes all of the different components and functions needed to provide high-speed wireless connectivity. So it includes the 5G core network or the 5G CN and the 5G access network, which works together to provide end-to-end connectivity for 5G devices, which is the user equipment or the UE, or for layman's term, this is the phone or the mobile phone. The 5G network, the 5G core network of the 5G CN is the core of the 5G system and is responsible for managing network resources, handling user authentication and security, and supporting various network functions such as network slicing and edge computing. So it is made of different components. Later we can see it. The 5G access network, on the other hand, is the portion of the 5G system that provides wireless connectivity between the user and the 5G. So in between here, you can see the air interface. So ito yung mga cell sites. If you go to the physical domain, you can see that this is the tower, this is the antennas, okay, and this is the base station. Okay, so the 5G access network also includes various components such as RRUs or the remote radio units and the baseband units. So the transport networks nandun din together to deliver high-speed data transfer rates. So the UE is the device used by the end user to access the 5G network. Okay? it's not only the smartphones, can also be the laptop, tablets, and any device that connects to the internet or the 5G network. So the UE is responsible for communicating with the 5G access network and transmitting data over the air interface. So if you go to the 5G core network, you can see here 5G service-based system architecture. This is actually introduced in 5G. This is a new architecture that is being introduced in the 5G system to provide more flexible, scalable, and service-oriented approach to network architecture. So the 5G SBA, or the 5G service-based system architecture, is a modular and flexible approach to designing network. So if we go back to the previous courses and you go back to visualization, network functions, or the SDN, we can actually apply those now with a 5G because of this structure. Um, because it is service based, you can have one physical network, but then you have different services that you can activate uh, via network, different network functions. Okay, so mas mabi-virtualize mo to compared with the older architecture. Okay, na paghiwa-hiwalay mo yung different function. No, you have the network slice selection. This would now medyo in detail na kasi if we go different function, but these are to explain is different functions that were separated so that they can be virtualized, they can be software defined uh compared to when it was in the older system. So to give you example, network slice selection function, ito yung nag-oversee ng network slicing. Okay? You have access mobility management, it oversees how we connect to the network. Okay? So pinag-iwahiwalay lahat 'yan so that we can have you can visualize everything here. And we can see here that the user equipment UU, which is the air interface, accessing the access network. And they can have like the control plane network elements here. Okay? Makikita nyo to, hindi pala masyadong kita. But if you can see here, these are network plane network elements. So it controls how we connect to the network. And then you have the user plane. Nandito yung data natin, nandito yung packets natin. And we go here to the data network. Okay? So the control plane controls us, controls how we connect to the network, how the data is transferred, and then you have the user plane wherein you can transmit the packets directly to the data network or to the internet. Okay? So the 5G SBA is designed to enable the creation of new and innovative services and applications by providing a flexible and modular architecture that can be easily adapted and customized to meet the needs of different use cases. So hindi mo na kailangan mag-deploy in different physical network. You are all you can have this visualized if you have this service-based system architecture. Okay, so overall, the 5G service-based or the SBA represents a major step forward in the evolution of network architecture, enabling the creation of new and innovative services and applications that can take full advantage of the capabilities of the 5G system. Not that I'm saying that this is actually now the current architecture, because like what I said, we're still at the non-standalone, so we're not yet seeing this one. But if we are to have full potential 5G and we go to standalone, then this is the way to go and this is what we're getting in the future. So this is another term, EU-TRAN. So actually we have used the U-TRAN before in the lower generation, but EU-TRAN is actually 4G. Okay, so it is a component of the 4G LTE long-term evolution, or the LTE. It is the radio access network that provides wireless connectivity between the user equipment and evolved packet core. So you can see here, you can see the base stations. and they have the mobile core and the internet. And this is one monolithic architecture, actually. You have the MME, the SGW. So you can see the difference between the SBA and this one. So this one we have. We have the LTE. And like what I said, we are now technically piggybacking on or anchoring on the LTE to have the 5G be enabled in the network. Kumbaga, it's like an overview, or it's like a pahapyaw to the people that we are now in 5G. Okay? So, EU-TRAN is designed to deliver higher speed data transfer rates. Okay? So, that's the promise of LTE before. Okay? One key feature of EU-TRAN is the use of multiple antenna, or the MIMO. It's actually, the MIMO is actually being used now by the LTE that we are now translating into the 5G. So, yep. So I just show this so that you can see the difference between. And to actually give it emphasis, you have the term user plane. So what I said, it carries the network user traffic. Ito yung mga packets. Ito yung mga pinapadala yung picture, pinapadala yung videos, pinapadala yung voice over IP and all the stuff. And then you have the control plane, which carries the signaling traffic. So magkahiwala yan. It's user plane is kumbaga sa tao, it's actually what the message you want to give to a person. And control plane is ito yung nangyayari sa likod. So if you watch, parang isang inside out. Okay? Ito yung mga nandun, what's happening at the background. How you actually want to deliver it. Okay? So kung ayaw mo masaktan yung isang tao, you have to really control how you deliver it. But so you can see this is the message, and then how you control it. So if you want to translate it in this technology, you can see it that you have the user plane and you have the control plane. Parehong pinapadala on the UE, on the radio access network, and in the core. Okay? Okay, so overall, the separation of the control and user planes in the 5G network is a critical feature that enables the network to provide enhanced functionality and performance compared to previous wireless communication. And then if you go to the protocol stack, so for students, you can be familiar with this one, the OC stack. And then it's always applicable to all networks. And in this case, for the 5G network stack, we can map it out that this layer, if you go back uh, to your courses back in college, you can see this mapped out for the 5G network stack. And you can see here the physical data link layer maps out to the open wireless architecture, and then you have the network layer, transport session, and the application. And since it is said that we have separation of the user plane and the control plane, of course, they have different protocol stack. And you can see here that you have the difference is that you have the SDAP here for the user plane, and then you have the RRC for the control plane. So for those that are into the telecommunication industry na, you are familiar with the RRC, and this is what we're seeing in the drive tests, in the KPIs, and how the network controls the users. Okay. So the RAN protocol stack is responsible for managing the radio interface between the UE and the network. Okay, so you have the physical layer, you have the medium access, you have the radio link, and the PDCP layer. This is actually, without going further into this, it's like this is how we process the data. You have more encapsulation here. You have more error detection here. You have more flags. You have more headers that you put as you go up and down the protocol stack. So it is designed to provide flexible and customizable network architecture actually for this one. So this is how, to put it simply, this is how we communicate with the network. So UE communicates with the access network, the G node B. This is the BTS. This is the cell site, and then you have in the core. So when the UE and the BTS is communicating, you're communicating per stack here. Okay. So we go to the split options. So now we have discussed the stack, the protocol stack. So we have the options how to implement those. So in 5G wireless communication systems, the split architecture is a key feature that enables greater flexibility, scalability, and efficiency in deploying 5G. This architecture is designed to separate the user and control plane functions within the network, allowing them to be processed and managed independently of each other. Okay? The split architecture in 5G is divided into two main categories. You have the CU and the DU. So those into the telecom industry already, you have heard of the CU and the DU. So the CU, or the centralized unit, is responsible for the control plane, including session management, mobility management, and authentication, while the DU, or the distributed unit, is responsible for the user plane function. So one of the key benefits of the split architecture in 5G is that it enables operators to more easily deploy and manage networks with varying capacity and coverage requirement. So another benefit of the split architecture enables the use of more efficient and cost-effective network architecture, such as the Cloud RAN. So dito na papasok tayo. So which uses centralized processing resources to support multiple distributed units. So the CU or the DU can be virtualized, can be put into the cloud, and it will be more efficient and more cost-effective. So if we go here to more visualize it, so you have the radio unit, RU, okay? And then you have the baseband unit, and then you have the core. So the RU, CU, DU split in 5G refers to the separation of functions within the radio access network, or the RAN. The split separates the radio unit, centralized unit, and the distributed unit function for greater flexibility. So the RU is responsible for the physical layer of the radio access network. So dito yung processing ng radio frequency, transmission, modulation, nandito. And then the CU is responsible for control and management of the network. Ba to? Yeah. Hindi pala lumalabas. Sorry. So, technically, in the traditional network, you have the radio unit and they have the baseband unit. This is actually a computer. This is, when you say baseband, this is where the computation happens before processing it going to the core network. Now, in the 3G approach to 5G, have the radio unit, same front haul, and then the baseband unit is actually separated into CU and the DU before going to the core unit. So CU responsible for control and management, and then DU is responsible for uh, distribution and processing of data. Actually, real time also happening in the DU, faster processing, and then non-real time can happen to the CU. So by splitting this function across multiple units, 5G networks can be deployed in more flexible and scalable manner. For example, multiple RUs can be connected to a single DU and CU, enabling greater capacity and coverage in higher density areas. Mind you, RU would always be physical because you have the antenna here. So, hindi mo pwede siyang i-visualize. So, the thing here in the traditional network, you have the RU and the baseband unit in the same on-site uh, location. So, you have the RU, the antenna, you have the computers or the BBU in the same cabinet. So, when we go to 5G, architecture, it's suggesting that you have the RU and then you have CU and DU, and with this you can actually virtualize uh, the CU, and you can have the DU and the RU on site. So ito yung na-explain kanina that when we go more virtualized, more to the cloud, we're actually being efficient and have the physical footprint lesser compared to the traditional architecture. So we're going being cost-effective network architecture, going such as Cloud RAN, which uses centralized processing resources to support multiple RUs. Okay, so we can have different RUs, different sites, different areas, and then you have connected to the separate to a single CU. Yun yung sinasabi niya. So it is possible. So the RU-CU-DU split is also designed to enable greater efficiency in the deployment of 5G networks. By separating the physical and control function, operators can more easily deploy and manage networks with varying capacity and coverage requirements. So overall, the RU-CU-DU split in 5G is a key feature that enables greater flexibility, scalability, and efficiency. Okay? So you can see here the split. We go more in detail. So we have the layer 1 and 2, 3 functional split, critical feature that enables greater flexibility. So makikita mo, we can see here different options. So you have the layer 1 function, the layer 2 function, and the layer 3 function. You can see here the radio unit. So you can see the lower physical. So all physical domain are here in the RU. And then you have the distributed unit. You can see here the MAC, the RLC in the DU. And then you have the PDCP and the RRC in the centralized unit, which can be in the cloud. So, and then here you can see the logical run disaggregation. So you can see here that the real-time physical functions are in the remote unit, uh, fast Fourier transform, inverse FFT, the MIMO, beamforming, nandito lahat sa physical remote unit. And then the distributed before this is one baseband unit, but since we have disaggregated this, you have now the distributed unit here, the radio processing. And now you can split the user plane going to the SDAP and then the control plane on the RRC. So you have the non-real time in the CU, the real time function. And you can see this is very familiar. When you go to the introduction on Open RAN, you can see that we can have that realized because of this logical RAN disaggregation. Okay. So here we can compare front haul, mid haul, and back haul. So you can have the front haul always between the RRU and the base band. But now we are having the front haul going to the DU, and then we have the mid haul because of this. And then you have the back haul going to the carrier network. And you can see here the latency differences, okay, and the coverage. You can see here the one to 20 kilometers because this is the 20 to 40 kilometer and different restrictions between the front haul, the mid haul, and the back haul. Okay. So overall, the mid haul, front haul, and back haul are key concepts in 5G networks that enable different components of RAN architecture to work together. Three factors for RAN splitting. Ito yung in-explain ko kanina. You need to support specific QoS per offered services. So we can have different logical views here, different splits. And you can see um uh, pros and cons of different splitting. Okay. So in 5G wireless communication systems, there are several different RAN split options that operators can choose from to optimize the performance and efficiency of their networks. So here we can have option 2, uh, wherein it involves the deployment of the 5G core network and 5G node B only with no distributed unit and centralized unit. It is a non-standalone architecture that leverages existing 4G architecture. Okay. And then you have the option 5. The option involves the separation of the user plane and control plane function within the distributed unit and uh, and user plane and control plane function within the distributed unit component of the RAN architecture. So the control plane functions are processed in the central unit, while the user plane functions are processed in the distributed unit. And then you have option 6. This option involves separation of UP or the user plane and control plane functions within the radio uh, head component of the RAN architecture. And then you have option 7. This option involves separation of the lower layer traffic. The lower layer traffic is processed in the CU, while the upper layer traffic is processed in the distributed unit. So you can see here, ideal delay would be faster, okay, if you go different splits. So you can have best performance here in 7/8 and then least performance here. And then you can see the throughput depending on different splits that you use. So you can see here that this split is best for 2G, 3G, and then we have this split 7 for 4G and 5G. Now, if you go uh, to visualize here the physical tower for telecom uh, equipment, you can see here the tower, and then you have the baseband unit here. So ito yung traditional network structure before, or actually what we have now. So we have baseband unit here, basically a computer, and then you have the remote unit, the RRU, and then you have all the physical layer here, and then you have the transducer here or the antenna, which transmits uh, the signal. And then you have the outdoor cabinet, or you have a much larger cabinet. And then you have the microwave here. So for those who are not familiar, ito po yung itsura niya. And then the baseband unit, and then you have the common public radio interface. Yep, this is one of those examples. Okay. So yung physical na nakikita natin immediately are the antennas. And now, what they're calling active antenna unit is more of more functionality compared to the traditional antenna. And then you have here the GPS synchronization, usually used for TDDs. Okay. These are some terms. Okay. Now, you have antenna system. You have the massive MIMO, the MIMO. Later we will discuss. We have discussed this, the FR1, FR2, a while ago, and then the transmission mode. Time TDD would be asynchronous, and this would be synchronous. You have uplink and downlink on the separate spectrum, and then you have the non-standalone and the standalone. Non-standalone NSA, it is mostly what we're being used now in the network in the Philippines. And of course, you have the voice services. Currently in the 5G in the NSA, we don't have this yet. So some might be having. So it depends on the implementation of the MNOs. So what we're getting now is the calls we're getting in the current network would be coming from the 4G. 4G, 3G, and 2G. But some operators are actually shut down 3G. So we're actually now running on 2G and LTE and 5G for some. So I'm not disclosing which operator, but yeah, for those who knows, who knows. So now, MIMO benefits. So MIMO is actually a technology that helps 5G to achieve the goal of higher throughput because we have more diversity gain here, more array gain, and spatial multiplexing gain. So in diversity gain, it reduces the impact of fading because we have more antennas. Antennas on the side of the site and on the phone. So, kumbaga sa raffle, more entries, more chances of winning. So, we have this diversity gain. And then, RA gain is achieved from the beamforming effect, which is generated when transmitting from multiple antenna elements. Okay? And the spatial multiplexing gain increased throughput by transferring multiple stream of data in parallel using same of time and frequency domain resources. So massive input, massive output. And with this, we can see here the effect of the beamforming. So in non-beamforming, like what I said before, you're transferring data, transferring information into a single beam. So you have like a 65 degree of beam per antenna from the traditional network. Now with beamforming, it's possible to have it different beams transmitting to a different UEs. So provides higher spectral efficiency, which adds more capacity. So it improves link performance and extend coverage. And then we further improve MIMO to have more uh, input, more output. We call it massive because we have more uh, extension of traditional MIMO technology to antenna arrays having large number of controllable transmitter. So you have fixed grid of beams, and then you have user equipment taking advantage of the beamforming. So if the antenna has two transceiver branches, it can send with two parallel SIMs to one UE. And then it evolves to have more, or like four transmitters. So it can send four streams to one UE having four antennas. And then, or dual stream to two UE simultaneously with multiple user, multiple input, multiple output, or the MU MIMO later will see it. And then you have 64 transmitters for massive MIMO. So, kumbaga, to explain simply, you have more antennas. And then with more antennas, you can, of course, if you have more antennas, medyo sumisikip na sila. So, the way to go is to have beamforming, of course, to have directional. If we go to telecommunication 101 to radio propagation, the the higher gain that you give to the antenna, the more directional it becomes. Okay, so the more directional means it becomes narrower. So we take advantage of that, and thus we have this beamforming. So in MIMO also, we can have right now we are having most MNOs are having single user MIMO. So a single user MIMO allocates a different subset of PRB to each UE. PRB, sabihin natin, is more like a channel or a resource given to a UE para makapag-send ng data. So you can see here that PRB for UE 1 and PRB for UE 2 are shared because you have like single user MIMO. But then with multiple user MIMO, what you do is that you have separate PRB for UE1 and you have separate UE for PRB for UE2. So, kumbaga, you're still sharing the network, but then in terms of the radio propagation, you have different paths for each UE. And of course, there are some parameters that are being for those that are in the telecommunication industry. There are parameters to actually optimize this. You have this, if not mistaken, uh, um, uh, what we call this? I forgot that parameter. But actually, you have the multiplier here that you can adjust so that you can have like compatible UEs you're partnering with so that you mitigate interference. So the UE must be separated in the spatial domain. So beamforming can be used to separate the transmission towards the UE. Of course, pag magkatabi kayong UE, you can have uh, magkatabing beams. So you'll be having different beams. So yun lang yung gusto sabihin nito dito. So even if you have multiple user taking advantage of the MIMO, so you are having algorithms that mitigates interference if you have UEs near to each other. So of course, in one area, you have separate UEs, different location. So you're maximizing those beams. So the network is allocating you different beams. So it's different from what we are having in the old. Now actually we if you have a massive MIMO antenna in the site, you're actually taking advantage of this. In the lower generation, 2G, 3G, um, we are actually not having this, the beamforming. We are all sharing single beam for for all users. So that's why we are limited by the number of users that we can have. And with this, like what I said, the promise of 5G to have like a million users in a single square kilometer can be realized because of this technology. And then you have, yeah, this is an example of a massive MIMO. So if you can see, I have an assignment for you. If you go for those students or not familiar with the telecommunication industry, if you go on a trip, you can see a site. You can now uh, have a piece of conversation piece sa samahan nyo sa sasakyan. He said, this kind of antenna is a massive MIMO antenna. And this is a traditional antenna, yung mga nakikita nyo uh, usually before. Now, if you can see a tower and you can see this kind of antenna, then you can see that already in my area, I have massive MIMO. And usually you can see if you have 5G in the site that you have in your area. And then here, if you have a cross-section of the massive MIMO, you can see ito yung mga grids, yung matrix natin. You can have like 64 transmit, 64 receive antenna elements. So if you can visualize it, you can have the beams here, beams there, beams yan, di ba? Of malito. So of course, if you have one user here, you can separate you have one user here na magkatabi, of course, they can have interference with each other, right? So can have a beam here, and then maybe the algorithm will assign a beam for this UE, and then beams. Okay. Just to visualize it. So how it happens in the physical world. And then, of course, we have the voice services, uh, different options that happening now, different operators. You can see here that, um, of course, we have the option 3 where we can have the LTE. You still have the LTE. And then the NR is actually piggybacking on the LTE because we have to use because the 5G still doesn't have the SBA architecture that we have discussed a while ago. Of course, it boils down to money. And we have a mature LTE network now. So we're taking advantage of it for the meantime. So we are piggybacking for the LTE for the voice services. And of course, we have the option 2 wherein it's directly NR. Option 4, we it's different. Baliktad naman, we have the core network and we have the legacy LTE here. Okay. Uh, Saan ba 'to? Para makita natin different. Okay, over the top, VoIP. Yan. So makita natin dito, CS fallback. So, nasa NR ka, okay? LTE serve sa'yo, and sa phone. Okay, you have a phone. Uh, and then since you have na non-standalone, you are actually camping on the LTE. And if you have a 5G there, the NR or the new radio or the 5G would be a secondary server or a secondary G node B here. So if you are maximizing the data for NR and then kailangan mong tumawag or someone is calling you, you fall back to the lower technology, which is the LTE. So also one assignment to you is try if you have a phone 5G capable phone and nagdi-data ka kunyari, so naka 5G, makikita mo 5G ka sa upper right or upper left, depende sa phone. And then someone called you or you made a call, you'll see that you will be falling back to the LTE. Okay? So that's CS is called uh, 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 the call, the CS call. Okay? So you fall back to the LTE. Now, in these cases, you have the EPS fallback and the RAT fallback. Okay, if you have these two options, and then if you are actually falling back to the LTE, you're technically VoLTE. So this is actually mature now in our network. So we have voice over LTE now. So, minamaximize yan ng mga network natin that if you make a call, you fall back to LTE and you make a VoLTE. But then, if you do these options, you're actually doing voice over NR if the network activates it. And we can only activate it if we have a 5G core or I5GC. But now, I believe in our network in the Philippines, we are using this because we're still NSA and we're still using the 4G network, which is the APC. Okay. And then enhanced VoLTE here. So I think that's it. I'm on time, yeah. So if any question po, meron pa pala, sorry. Okay, NSA, VoLTE with good experience, LTE wider coverage yan. Pakita nyo kasi this is what's happening now. You have, since we have higher frequency for NR, you have lower range for NR if you go away. Because if you have sites, may mga sites kasi na 4G lang, and then merong mga sites na NSA, which is 4G, 5G. So if you're walking or driving away from an NSA site and only on a 4G site, then you're losing coverage. Ang nangyayari lang dyan, add and delete eh. You add NR, if you go to the LTE, and then you have the good condition or the threshold, you reach the threshold that you have to have 5G, then you add the NR. So, but if you're here and you have to make a call, even if you're in a good coverage of the NR, you're still going to VoLTE because you're still NSA. Wala tayo kasing core sa 5G. We are using EPC pa, which is 5G. Pangit na magsulat. Pero that you get you get the drift. You have the 5G, the 4G. So, but the thing here is because you are falling back, ang daming signaling, so your call setup would be much higher. Okay? But yeah. So hindi actually sa toong buhay naman, you cannot really if you're not that keen on getting the call setup that fast, hindi naman siya ganun ka-critical. Okay? So, yep, fallback, VoLTE not deployed. So, what's happening is you're going, actually, most of the MNOs are discontinuing 3G and chosen to have the 2G uh, and then 4G. So, either you fall back to the 4G or you fall back to the 2G. And then from a VoLTE, can also fall back to 2G. I'm not sure if it depends also on the operator if they actually activated a fallback to 2G. But most are falling back to LTE. Uh, and then those, because in other network, in other markets, wala na ring 2G. So they're all LTE and above. So nowhere to go but to LTE. But I think in our case, we still have 2G, wherein call and text are still the number one, is still king. So you fall back to 2G. And that would entail higher call setup time, 6 seconds. So if hindi ka naman maarte with the call setup, so for the subscriber, it's okay lang. Okay? So di naman ganun paano. But for SA, if we are already in SA, we have voice over NR, but then we also have an option to have an handover to VoLTE if it's SA. Okay, can also have EPS fallback, and then EPS fallback, and then from LTE can have fallback to 2G. So these are the voice services. Either for if you're in SA or standalone, you have this option. You can stay on the VoLTE NR, but of course the coverage is crucial. So if you go away here and you lost a significant coverage for NR, para hindi maputol yung tawag, You can have handover or packet service handover packet. Now we are now in packet because if we are voice over NR, it's more of packet now. So we have packet handover to Volte. Okay. And it has lesser voice setup in this case, voice access. And then one option also is if wala tayong VONR, hindi inactivate ni operator, we can always fall back to EPS or to Volte via EPS in SA. So this is on paper, okay? But in actual, what's happening right now is in the NSA for most markets. So ito yung mga na-experience nyo. So yeah, try to experiment. If you try to call, wala pang VONR na activated. So what happens is that even if you have good 5G coverage, you always be fallback to either Volte or to 2G. Depends on the network.